How is it like this? This okay?
Oh, sounds beautiful now.
Okay. Sorry.
Night and day.
Wait, what?
He's making jokes. Give me a little more to make sure that the levels are good though.
Okay, I can just keep talking. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan van den Belt. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yamin, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard.
I think he should be good. It's not sounding like he's blowing out, Sean.
Okay, I'll just be very calm. Like,
well, I mean, feel free to get excited. You can always. Yeah.
Okay. Also, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when in doubt, I mean, you can, like, I have mine down at like 96% or whatever. If you turn it down just a couple percentages, we can always turn you off on our ends, and it keeps you from blowing out. So.
Good idea. I almost forgot to join Splashstop. Also, in the script, it says Abjad is the director, not Sean.
Yeah, that's my fault.
Also, is your Splash Stop open? Sure. Okay, cool.
2017 NASCAR Beginner Free Series Championship to Ryan Luza.
Yeah, I built this computer last week, so I'm like, super. I'm getting like all the parts in like throughout the week, so I received my hard disk last week. I have an SSD, so I can work. My hard drive is only just in. I only got the cable, so I can do VR again yesterday as well. Slowly it's coming together again.
Staff chat that the DGFX race is starting before sunrise.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. Do they have accelerated time in that one, or it's just normal time?
I doubt it. Because it's going to be a 6-hour race. It wouldn't really need to accelerate.
Yeah, we almost had a problem in the race of champions. We basically thought like, oh, let's just do a few hours of extra practice instead of the session. So when the season, like, yeah, when the race was over, like the sun was basically set.
Yeah, the AMG SimRacing the same thing. It was at the same track. It was at Monza, and there's a lot of trees around Monza, so it got darker than they expected.
Last time they did this race was like 2017 or something.
They did Suzuka West.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Dudagnon is 3 for 3. Claridge finds himself as fast as ever, but not quite fast enough to keep a very determined Frenchman behind him. And while the Glen, Daytona, and Le Mans were all high-speed circuits with long straights, Suzuka slows these cars down massively. With the series making a visit to Japan's most famous racing circuit, prowess behind the wheel is likely to be a bigger decider than clever moves in a draft battle. Is this where the tides turn in the championship? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 4 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel in the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Van Velde. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Johan, welcome to the land of the rising sun. Hopefully the drivers out here in the western U.S. will see that sunrise soon, but while we wait for us, tell us a little bit about Suzuka.
When people think of modern Formula 1 circuits, people think of Hermann Tilke. The German has pressed his mark on the F1 calendar in the last 15 years, but before the German got the unofficial title of Formula 1 track architect, you had another unofficial Formula 1 track designer, Hans Buchenholz. This Dutch architect designed several other circuits like Zolder, Jarama, the stadium section of Hockenheim, and of course Suzuka. This track was opened in 1962 and was originally a Honda test track. It received a slight redesign in 1987, and after that it became the home of the Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix, a race which it hosted 30 times. Now this means that the Lotus 49 we see on track today never actually raced at Suzuka. But to be honest, I think it would have been a great fit. The circuit offers a great challenge for our drivers and highlights the lack of downforce by featuring plenty of fast, flowing corners. And to get a feel of what the drivers are in for today, let's hop on board our GSRC Lotus 49 for a lap around Suzuka.
All right, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Suzuka. Coming down to turn 1, it's going to be very difficult to come in here too wide, so passes are likely to finish before the first apex. That of course dumps you into the hairpin of turn 2. Try to square off the exit and keep enough control to get the car off to the right quickly. Now we enter the S's. These bends are difficult even in a high downforce car, but you chuck the 49 among them and it's an exercise in throttle control and patience. Try not to get too greedy on each corner because you'll want to stay set up for each subsequent apex. This final right-hander is especially deceptive with the way the radius tightens at the end. Once you reach the last left-hand corner, ease onto the throttle and try not to understeer wide off of Dunlop. With the way this bleeds into the braking zone of Degner 1, it'll be important to be able to bring the car off to the left. Hit the binders and try to just clip that inside curb. Then give it a squirt of gas and slow it up for Degner 2. Use the banking here to keep your momentum up and try to keep confidence in that right foot as you exit the corner. Next up is the very tricky braking for the hairpin. The car really wants to get sideways as you downshift, but if you're brave, you can take it in here pretty hot. Like any other hairpin, try to late apex this sucker, but just as you start to get on the power, the long gentle curve of 12 will once again test your throttle control. You can't quite keep it flat out, and like many other corners on this track, you've got to hold to the inside as you exit to set up for the next one. This brings us to Spoon, which is taken as 2 apexes. Let the car drift out after the first one, and then try your best not to turn in too early for the second. The exit here is the all-important thing. The longest straight on the track, climbing up a relatively steep hill, will make momentum and a good launch critical to your lap time. As you let the car drift off to the right, try to spot your brake marker and throw out the anchor. This is not a modern F1 car, and you must slow down for this kink. Quickly bring the car across the track, and then you've got what will probably be a popular passing spot in the Casio Triangle. The scary part will be not knowing whether the car ahead will defend until it's pretty late because of the natural racing line. You can take a lot of curb here, but bleed onto the power off the exit until you're sure it'll grip. Drift off to the outside, keep your foot to the floor down the pit straight, and if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Suzuka.
There you see a lap around Suzuka, and as we mentioned, we've got 3 rounds finished here in the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, which means we have a good idea of what the points are going to be looking like this season and who the major players are. So looking at the F1 standings, Michel Dudagnon course, has maximum points with 150. Now, Mick Claridge has gotten 2 second places in that, so he is a little bit farther behind than what he could be, but 23 points back still is within reach, but he's got some work to do for sure. He's definitely got to start beating the Frenchman. Dave Price as well has had a pretty good season, only 33 behind. Now, Billy Bob Wright and Rob Olnick swap places, but we have to point out that Rob, despite a bad finish last round, has shown quite a bit of speed this season. Let's see what happens, though, now that we have moved over to a more technical track. What about the F2 Championship, Johan? Those drivers seem to be pretty close.
Yeah, extremely close. There's especially 3 drivers that are very close together in that Formula 2 Championship. David Rossi, he is leading that championship currently with 42 points scored so far. But look behind him. Those are 2 drivers very close on this still. And Andrew Eng only 6 points behind him in P2. Hideki Corfiso on the final podium position. 2 other drivers in the top 5 in this championship. Robert Reynolds is currently sitting in P4. And Dave Cohen had a good run last time out. He gained 5 positions. And he's currently sitting in P5.
Of course, they hold a Constructors' Championship. The way they do that in this series is by nation instead of by drivers joining specific teams. France, of course, is leading naturally. The UK has Claridge and Price contributing so far. The US as well, with Wright and Olenek not doing too bad. You can see Finland and Australia jump up onto the top 5 here. Finland making great inroads this season. They've got 3 drivers now contributing, with Toika joining in. Timu, of course, not a regular here in the Lotus 49, but started dropping some points into the bucket. Now, let's go to the race details with Johan one last time while we wait for qualifying to finish up here.
Yeah, this is the first race and also the first season of 2019, round 4 of the 12-round championship. This season we have once again 2 drop weeks. That means that the 2 worst results of each driver will not be calculated in their final championship position. The race distance today here at Suzuka, 16 laps with open setups. That means that the drivers can tweak their setup just to their liking to basically tackle this very twisty circuit. And the points, it pays to 25th position. So yeah, the guys are in for a good haul today.
And taking a look at our qualifying, we've got some times in, but we do want to mention, if you enjoy this sort of vintage racing, make sure and subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network, where we've got more just like this, as well as all the iRacing World Championship Series, all the official stuff that you can watch here on GSRC, as well as many other channels represented. Now, looking at these times, Michel Dudignon, no surprise that he's on the pole, but Mick Claridge, his first lap did not count. You talk about being under the gun here. I think he's got some heavy work to do.
Absolutely, because I was indeed looking as well to the gap between P1 and P2. Look at that on top of your screen, over a second. Dave Price is behind Michel Dudignon. Mick Claridge is probably the driver that you would put between those 2 drivers. But the English driver, like you say, Joe, is under pressure. He only has 1 more shot as he's going through the Deckner curves now to get in a lap time and to qualify. Because if you have to start from the back of the grid here, this is going to be a real tough job to move your way forward.
Interestingly, it's Marco Kika in 3rd. That is a phenomenal effort by him. He certainly seemed to have found something this season to get himself in the mix, although he wasn't there for the win in last round. He's coming around to complete this lap. He gets demoted down to 4th by Billy Bob Wright, but as he crosses, he does not improve his lap time.
I just want to put an emphasis, David Rossi just comes across the finish line. He doesn't improve on his first lap time, but he's still sitting in P5. Now, with car number 13, that's a really impressive performance from the leader in the F2 Championship.
Not seeing as many familiar names up at the top this time. Not sure. I think it's because many of them don't appear to be here today, as we watch Mick Claridge try to get his lone timed lap in here in the final minute of qualifying through the Casio chicane, out of the final corner and across the line. Let's see what his time is going to be. It's a 1:58.9. That is good enough for 2nd place. Puts himself on the front row. So Let's see who else is left to qualify. Gary Teal comes around, and he's actually got both of his times in, so he'll do no better than 9th. I believe Alex Cameron just completed his 2nd lap, and that one does not count, so he'll do no better than 12th. Eng has already completed both of his laps, so that will finish for everybody out on the grid. And the grid is complete. Let's go through our starting order, even though we've got 20-some seconds left. It is all said and done here in qualifying. Michel Dudignon is going to be on the pole with Mick Claridge starting in 2nd. Let's see what he's got for him today. Dave Price will begin row 2 and 3rd with Billy Bob Wright having a bit of connection issues today. Hopefully that clears up by race time. He'll be 4th. Marco Kiga starts P5 with David Rossi starting in 6th. Then in 7th, you've got Daniel Sadro with Matt Wright starting P8. 9th will be Gary Teal, and row 5 is completed by Richard Morin. Johan?
First driver outside of the top 10, Jean-Francois Boscus, the French driver, starts in P11. Next to him, it's Alex Cameron in row 6. Hideki Kofisto starts the race in 13th place. He's being flanked by Andrew Eng. Francisco Javier Gutierrez starts the race in 15th. Behind him, you can find Daniel Blackman. And there were 3 drivers who failed to set a qualifying time. Angelica Pawlowski starts the race in 17th, Don Good in 18th, and Robert Reynolds rounds out the field.
16 laps here to contest today at Suzuka, and not the largest field we've seen, but still a healthy field here in the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. This is going to be a huge challenge for these drivers. As Johan mentioned, a lot of fast, sweeping corners, which really suit the Lotus 49, but that doesn't mean it won't be difficult, as this car has immense power, low downforce, and certainly tests the mettle of anybody with their right foot, as well as the braking, we should say. Just waiting for the last of them to grid up here on that uphill front stretch, the unusual uphill front stretch that they have, or excuse me, downhill front stretch that they have here in Suzuka. Just Billy Bob Wright, who will be starting from the pit lane. Apparently from his connection issues, it seems, just doesn't trust being out in the middle of things at the start. Gary Teal as well, waiting to find his way out to the grid, and then we can go racing. Looks like he has wheeled his car out there. So just letting the clock tick down at this point. And then we get to race here in Japan. You can see we've got a bit of a cloudy day as some of the sun is peeking through at the back of the grid, just working its way to the front slowly. It is currently 80 degrees out on the track, so not terribly hot. As the engines start to rev, the lights come up. Green flag is out here in round 4 of the Grand Prix Legends Series. Dave Price gets a great jump on Mick Claridge, already challenging on him down into the first corner, but has to give up the ghost as the rest of the field works their way into this double right-hander of 1 and 2. We got cars coming together, some of them spinning around, making contact. Looks like Hideki Koivisto involved in that. Alex Cameron and Daniel Blackman will get back to them in a bit as they work their way through the S's.
Yeah, Billy Bob Wright is out of the pits, but I was looking at this immense start of Gary Teal, who went up from P9 to P5 before he reached turn 1, threading the needle between David Rossi and Marco Kika. David Rossi, who couldn't profit from the fact that Billy Bob Wright had to start from the pits, but had a slow start himself. Gary Teal gaining 4 positions already, currently sitting on the edge of the top 5.
And they're all single file already. Don Good, as well as Daniel Blackman, Koivisto, Reynolds, and Wright bringing up the tail. Cameron has taken a tow. But boy, is it staying tight at the very top. Mick Claridge, only 3/10 behind. He and Dudignon starting to break away, and we're barely half a lap through.
Dave Price cannot follow the speed that they show at the moment. Marco Kika behind him is trying to follow Dave Price a little bit. Marco Kika was almost a second slow in qualifying. Ooh, very sideways for Spoon Kika. That maybe allows Dave Price to get away a little bit.
Yeah, he certainly had that car a little bit sideways coming off the corner. Certainly didn't help his speed. So now they work their way through 130R. Terrifying in this car, even though you have a fair bit of braking coming up to it. One of the good passing zones down into the Casio triangle, but it doesn't look like anybody's going to have a go this time through into there. So with the first lap done, why don't we take a peek at that first incident? Didn't really see anything that looked unduly dangerous. I think, from my perspective, we'll see once we get the replay up here, it looked like it was just the accordion effect.
Yeah, it was Alex Cameron and Hideki Kofisto getting together. We'll go to the replay of it now, and you can see them getting together. It's the number 15 and the number 12 on track. Hideki Kofisto just had to cut in a little bit in turn 2 to try and overtake Jean-Francois Bouscous. But there was Alex Cameron, so he got turned around, and that's, like you said, Joe, created an accordion effect and basically bumped a bunch of cars onto the grass.
We'll get a good look at it. The way everybody wants to bring it down to the apex. Unfortunately, there's only so much room down there at the bottom, as those three drivers found out. We're going to watch on board from Blackman's view here. Looks like he gets it going once again. As we come back live, boy, Dave Price has dropped off significantly from our top two. Well, we had a change for position in the midfield. It looks like Jean-Francois falls down to 10th now. They lost out to Richard Morin, and Angelica Pawlowski now on the hunt to try and get into that top 10.
Yeah, Angelica was one of the drivers that didn't manage to set a qualifying time. She's really finding her way up the field at the moment. It seems like Jean-Francois Bouscous is easy prey waiting to be taken. A little update about Hideki Kofisto. We just saw him in the replay being involved in that incident. The Finnish driver is currently sitting in the pits repairing his car.
Ooh, way wide and off for Angelica Pawlowski through 130R. Manages to get back on the course with that big chunk of paved runoff. Of course, loses time to the battle between Jean-Francois and Richard Morin. And also brings Andrew Ang right up behind Pawlowski as they reach the front stretch once again. Not missing anything up at the front. Claridge still behind Dudignon. Not as close as he was before. Still within a second, though.
A little bit in front of the battle that we just saw, David Rossi. He's starting to basically caught a little bit by Richard Morin, by Jean-Francois Bouscous, and by Angelica. David Rossi, we mentioned it before, Joe, he couldn't really profit from the fact that the car in front of him on the grid wasn't there, was overtaken a few times already before turn 1, and currently is sitting in P8, having lost 2 positions so far this race. He'll be trying to keep this whole battle, the whole gaggle of cars behind him that are edging closer and closer.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I was a little surprised that Rossi qualified as well as he did. It seems like his race pace is bearing out that it was a very good qualifying, as he continues to be caught by Morin, who's pulled away from Bouscous. Back in 5th, though, we've got Gary Thiel being chased by Daniel Sadro, as well as Thiel having the car of Matt Wright behind him as they hit Spoon now, so a bit of a three-way battle. They come to the backstretch, which doesn't offer quite as much of a drafting chance as some other lesser-powered cars here in the iRacing service.
Absolutely. It's also maybe a little bit too short for these cars to get a really good opportunity. Also, the 130R is not that much of a heavy braking zone. You can see Daniel Sadro getting a little bit closer, however. He's quicker throughout that very difficult left-hander. The Gary Thiel in front of him. Hard braking for the Casio triangle. Stays single file. Daniel Sadro is edging slightly closer to its rival in P5.
Boy, you talk about a recovery. 1 lap ago, Pawlowski was way off the track. This lap overtakes Jean-Francois Bouscous with ease down into the Casio triangle. So move Pawlowski up into the top 10 now. Jean-Francois moving a little bit backwards here. Ooh. And 3rd is getting very, very close between Price and Kika. Getting through the S's now. Not many passing opportunities here. But I don't know about you, Johan, but I found coming here through Dunlop one of the most challenging parts in this car with the way it turns and is forces you to be on the power.
Yeah, and also because the corners after the digs are so important. You have to position your car perfectly for those. And when you brake, and if you don't get a Dunlop curve exactly correct, you just ruin the next set of corners as well. It's like you say, a really difficult part of the track. You can see Michael Kika having no trouble with it whatsoever, because while eyeing it, he seems like he gets closer to Dave Price a little bit. The exit of the hairpin, it seems like Dave is getting away, but the Finnish driver is putting pressure on Dave Price for sure.
Right on board with Kika, now heading through Spoon. As we watch them swing through the double left-hander, the ever-important second apex, where you have to get the power down onto the backstretch, and a very good run off the corner by Price. Whatever he's done with that setup certainly seems incredibly planted.
Sorry, Mick Claridge. I thought he would completely ruin his race there, the way he went through 130R. He went completely sideways through it. We were talking about the slide job earlier in the race. He touched slightly the outside of the grass on the run down towards 130R. Man, that was one of the most beautiful drift moves I've seen in this car.
Let's see if we can... I guess we won't be able to get a replay because we got a heavy battle on our hands. Look at this. Richard Morin being challenged by Rossi. Actually, no, he just overtook Rossi. Now Pawlowski is bottled up behind the number 13 car, but not for long. Breaking into turn 1 makes it look easy. Pawlowski now to 9th as Rossi just tumbles down the order, position after position.
Angelica Pawlowski is doing a great race so far. Looking at the pace that the car is currently showing, and that's a pace good enough for maybe a top 5 position. That car is really one to look out for, to move up a lot more further than she currently is, as much more than P9 that she currently is in.
And don't forget, Boscas is at the back of this, could overtake Rossi as well. Going all the way from 6th to 10th is probably not how he expected or wanted this race to go. Working out of the second Degner now. Rossi, very much the reverse of what we just saw with David Price. Seems to struggle out of the corners a little bit.
Heavy battle still going on, as you can see here. Angelica trying to find a way past Richard Morin in the hairpin. That's a difficult corner. This is a really long right-hander. Very difficult to keep a car side by side or even put it side by side. You can set yourself up here, spoon curve. If you can get a good exit here, we talked about it before, you might be able to take a look on the inside of the 130R. Oh, Angelica looks really smooth there on the exit. A little bit more smooth than Richard Morin, but not smooth enough, it seems like. The draft is another big factor in this part of the circuit. You can say that it's not enough to try and move in this corner.
Oof, Pawlowski is really putting the pressure on, though. Only 2 or 3 tenths behind. Not close enough to attack down into Casio. Richard Morin, though, car wobbling all around. That's certainly not going to help. Tries to square off the final corner. Is he going to go defensive down into turn 1? So far, doesn't cover it off. Pawlowski with a run down the front stretch up towards turn 1. Morin's not going to fight it. The Canadian lets Pawlowski through.
Yeah, I was waiting for that to happen. Angelica is extremely quick this time around. Again, a 2-1-0. If you compare it to the 3 cars in front, she's quicker than Gary Thiel, who is currently being put under pressure by both Daniel Cedro and Matt Wright behind him.
Yeah, you have to wonder if Pawlowski's got the pace to start to run them down. Because right now it's about 4 seconds, so that's not impossible. We're only on lap 6 here. Matt Wright, especially if Wright and Sadro start to battle with Thiel, but so far they've been a little bit stuck behind Gary. Up towards the hairpin. Down, braking into this tight left-hander. Neither of them able to close up on Thiel, but Sadro finds himself a little bit more under pressure from Matt Wright. So that could be the saving grace from the number 4 of Gary if those two start to go side by side and give him a little bit of leeway.
I love to see that coming out of the hairpin, that basically all 3 cars have a different driving line through that corner. You saw Daniel Cedro go completely wide, while Matt Wright and Gary Thiel basically went tracked out a lot less far than Daniel Cedro did. It seems like all three drivers have their own tactics of approaching this circuit.
Love how the uniqueness of that brings that out. This car brings that out in drivers. Up at the front in the meantime, it is still Michel Dudignon leading Mick Claridge. Claridge has not been able to make any inroads. In fact, since that slide, has continued to lose out at about 4 seconds difference. We are about to potentially see 4 for 4 from Michel Dudignon. I'm trying to think the last time we've seen that kind of incredible effort at the start of a season. It's been a while, and it was Claridge doing that before.
I wanted to say that it's probably Claridge who's the last one who won 4 races in a row, but looking at it like this, it seems like there has to happen a lot before Michel Dudignon will be kept from winning another race here in the Lotus 49.
So, flying down towards the hairpin one more time. He has no pressure whatsoever, unlike a number of the other drivers. P3 certainly has it. Dave Price and Marco Kika have not been able to separate. And boy, hats off to Kika. We talked about the fins not showing well in the past in these cars. I think Marco's trying to make me eat my words.
Well, for now, he's still outside of a podium position, but he is putting pressure on Dave Price. He's not putting his car on the inside and trying to go double foul through a corner. No, but he's always there in the rearview mirror. No matter which part of the circuit Dave looks behind him, he knows that Marco Kika is there. Here, coming out of Spoon Curve, once again, Marco Kika stays there. Not close enough for Dave Price. I'm actually wondering if Marco Kika is maybe waiting a little bit, trying to figure out what the weak spots are of Dave, and then setting himself up for overtaking maneuver a few laps from now.
I have a feeling that might be part of it, because he doesn't seem to be interested in trying to really push the car to get up underneath him. So I think you're right. He could just be scoping things out. They are coming up on a little bit of traffic in the form of Robert Reynolds, but I think he is looking for the right place to let them through, which could be right here. Yeah, he's braking way early. Oh, but this is a bit of an awkward place for poor Marco Kika, and he's a little offline, but didn't hold him up too badly.
Yeah, could have been a lot worse. I don't think that Marco Kika lost too much there. Ooh, as we see Dave Price going off the track, he makes a mistake in the SS. That doesn't hurt him that much, but you can see immediately that Marco Kika wins a lot of space. Marco Kika gets excited and starts sliding his car through the SS. That's also not the quickest way. Both drivers trying to make slight mistakes here, lap 9 or lap 7 of the race. It stays the same.
Both drivers maybe getting a little bit too overexcited after that one mistake. Marco Kika closing in now down to 0.4 of a second. He smells blood in the water. He can't quite take advantage yet. A break for the hairpin yet again. Right on board with Kika, getting a much closer view of that gearbox this time.
Yeah, but once again on the exit of the hairpin, he's just not as quick or smooth, or however you want to call it, as Dave Price is, and you can see that the gap immediately stretches out like it was last time.
So as this continues on, you know, I'm taking a glance back at Angelica Pawlowski. We wondered about their pace and if they could catch the three-way battle of Teal, Sadro, and Wright. Well, a second has been chopped off of that. Now, I don't know if that's due to traffic, because they had to get by Reynolds as well. But whatever the case, it is smaller.
Looking at the pace of, for example, Matt Wright, his last lap time was actually his quickest lap of the race, at 2:07. If you compare it with Angelica Pawlowski, she did a 2:0.1. So that's actually 0.6 of a second quicker. So it seems like Angelica is slowly but surely, half a second per lap, just chopping down the deficit and really trying to make it a 4-car battle for P5.
You know what? You're right, because another half second is gone now that we come to the line. In fact, more than that, it is down to 2 seconds up to Matt Wright. Angelica Pawlowski is coming in a hurry, and I think this fight is about to get jumbled up, because those three have been stuck in a stalemate where they are for quite a few laps at this point. I think a fast car coming through could give an opportunity to some of them.
And I'm actually wondering if it is Gary Thiel who's basically the cork on the bottle, so to speak. If he is holding the rest of the drivers up. If Daniel or Matt can go quicker if they didn't have Gary Thiel in front of them, or if he's just pulling them along as quick as possible.
We'll find out if one of them makes an attack and is successful, but not sure that they're going to be looking forward for very long, because Pawlowski should just about be visible in their mirrors now. Down to 8 laps to go. So Pawlowski can't spend too long on them. He's got 3 cars to try and get through. Love this shot from on board, looking back. This is with Matt Wright looking over the rear suspension just past the driver. Wright getting a little bit closer to Sadro now. And Pawlowski stalled out a little bit, unusually.
Yeah, I think that Daniel Sadro probably sees Pawlowski getting closer and closer to the last few laps, and Daniel knows I have to get by Gary Thiel, so I'm not the second person who will be put under pressure if Angelica gets by Matt Wright.
Yeah, it looks right there, because Sadro, very close to Thiel, down towards the Casio triangle, couldn't make an overtake stick, and now Gary Thiel has got the fire lit under him as he accelerates out of the final quarter and puts a big gap between himself and Daniel.
Oh, look at that lap time of Angelica Pawlowski, an under 2-minute lap time. Compare that with Matt Wright, who did a 2:1:0. So over a second quicker, Angelica, compared to Matt Wright. She's really cutting down the deficit quick now.
That is down to 1.2 up to the number 11 car. We're not missing anything up front. Let's stay with this. Claridge is now 6.5 seconds behind Dudignon and continuing to drop. In fact, the gaps between the top 3 continue to spread as Dave Price is 6 seconds behind Claridge. So as Pawlowski cuts it to under a second now, Matt Wright has got to be sweating a bit.
Yeah, he's gonna see the yellow car in his rearview mirror get closer. Oh, Angelica gets very loose. Oh, he cannot save it. But he cannot save it, keeping it out of the wall. But that's all the time gained lost. Actually gets passed by Richard Moran behind. David Rossi is too far, but all that time gained by Angelica is ruined by making that small mistake on the exit of the Deccan curve.
Well, what's bad for Angelica is good for Richard. Let's see if Richard can hold that number 8 off, though. Let's take one more look at that. What exactly happened to Angelica? I was just watching it, and then suddenly I saw the car oversteer on its way in. Take one more glance at it.
It almost maybe sounded like shifting down too quickly. Yeah? The RPM just went at one point. It almost sounds like maybe shifting down a little bit too much too quickly, and that gave the car a lot of wheel spin and just slid her almost into the wall.
Well, already Angelica is trying to see what they can do to get past Richard with a good exit out of the final corner. Not quite good enough. I don't think Angelica is going to have a chance into turn 1. It looks like it is not to be, at least for this time. Huge sigh of relief, though, from Matt Wright and Daniel Sadro, although Matt Wright falling back from Daniel. In fact, Daniel continuing to get closer and closer to Gary Thiel. As they work their way out of the S's, into the Dunlop curve. Thiel has been dealing with this admirably, I must say. I can't think of any instance that we've seen him make a major mistake so far. He's just been cruising and paying attention to his own race instead of what's happening behind him.
I mean, it is a difficult track to overtake, so if you can just keep driving your own race, don't make any mistakes. It's one of the easier tracks maybe to keep a car behind you, and like you say, Gary Thiel is doing that. Once again, we see different racing lines. Daniel Sadro going a little bit wider. It's helping him here in this long right-handed towards Spoon curve. Gap stays about the same. Matt Wright behind him is falling a little bit down, a little bit away. You could see that in that shot there. Going through Spoon Curve. Daniel Sedra stays behind him. Gary Thiel, again, very different racing lines. Gary Thiel way harder clobbering the apex than Daniel Sedra is. But in the end, the difference is not that big. They stay basically with the same gap as they were before.
This is the closest battle we've got at the top of the field right now. Kika's dropped off Price, so the battle is for P5. Ooh, a little bit of a lockup down into the Casio Triangle as Matt Wright tries very hard to get back up to these two. And I'd say he's done it. It is back down to half a second. Sadro, actually, maybe it was Sadro that locked up because he's dropped off of Thiel.
Behind him, Angelica is getting very close to Richard Morin, taking a little look on the inside of turn 1, actually trying to make a move there. Richard Morin once again gives space. Angelica sliding on the apex. Gets the job done. Is in front once again. When they reach turn 2. So Angelica Pawlowski back to P8.
Let's take another look at that. Since we showed the replay before of Pawlowski's mistake, let's show the recovery. Just set it up beautifully, got the run down the front stretch. For the second time, the Canadian, very fittingly, was polite and let Pawlowski through without too much fuss. So the DH driver moves the number 8 car into P8. Ooh, and that mistake was very, very costly because it is 7 seconds up to Matt Wright with 5 laps to go. I don't think Angelica's got quite enough to get up to those 3 for a second time in this race. So we take a glance at them. It is still Thiel leading Sadro, leading Wright. It has been that way for pretty much this whole race.
But it seems like the gaps are getting slightly bigger between them though, Joe. Like, it seems that Gary Thiel's just edging away from Daniel Sedro. Matt Wright cannot follow them. Maybe this is an elastic being pulled apart before they get shot together again. It seems like Gary Thiel's finding a little bit of speed that he had a few laps ago.
Yeah, but I think looking at their grid positions, it pays credence to your theory earlier that Thiel is the one holding them up because he started this thing in 9th. He is currently in 5th. You look at the likes of Sadro and Wright, they were in 7th and 8th. So those two were a little bit farther down from where they are now. In fact, each were 1 down on the grid from where they are. But I think that either Thiel had a bad qualifying and was able to pull forward, or he just had a really good first lap and now is doing everything he can to hold them back.
It was that start, like that start where he was immediately off the line, overtake 3-4 people before they reached turn 1, and that's really what helped Gary Thiel just get those positions immediately and just being defensive from that point. Not giving away any of those positions back and just staying there with all the positions that he gained when the race began.
Well, for all I downplayed Angelica Pawlowski, the number 8 car is now 5.5 seconds behind. That's a second and a half already chopped off. Is that going to be enough, though? I think it'll be very tight on whether or not Angelica can get up to these 3. Regardless, Gary Thiel, 11 seconds behind Marco Kika, is about as far as we'll see Angelica go if Pawlowski can run them down in time.
And if those 3 drivers in front of them keep playing nice with each other, because if they start battling with each other, that gap might diminish very, very quickly. But like I said, it seems like Gary Thiel is just finding his grip at the moment. He's just running away in P10 behind him. The battle is heating up a little bit. That's the fight between David Rossi and Billy Bob Wright. Billy Bob Wright started in P4, currently in P11, but he's trying to get a position back on David Rossi there.
Obviously, only can see him occasionally. He's really got to go and check on his internet cable because it certainly doesn't seem to be in the best of condition as he disappears repeatedly in the battle with Rossi. Not what David wants to see right now, for sure. That's Jean-Francois Boscus behind them, not too far back, ready to capitalize if something happens.
And Billy Bob Wright's taking a little look there on the inside of turn 1. He finally stops. Oh no, he disappears when he reaches the apex. But it seems like he got that position. Maybe David Rossi just was a little bit extra cautious there. Making sure that he sees the end of the race, really consolidating that Formula 2 lead. He gets overtaken. So David Rossi back to P11. Billy Bob back into the top 10.
Back in 5th, Gary Teal gets himself a slight buffer between himself and Sadro. About 0.8 of a second. In fact, they've all spread apart equidistant, it seems, while Pawlowski continues to gun them down to 4.5 seconds now. 3 laps to go. I think this is going to be too little too late.
Oh, that is Gary Teal almost spinning, almost crashing out. Almost took out by Daniel Sadro there. What happened there with Gary Teal?
Let's take a look at the replay. Oh, you know what? I think you're going to see out of the hairpin, coming through that sweeping right-hander, he gets way too greedy with the grass, and the car just spins on him. Watch this.
Oh, wow. Literally what you said, too greedy, just trying to cut the corner a little bit more that you can do, and he's extremely lucky not to be taken out by Daniel Sadro behind. Daniel Sadro currently going out, also went off in spoon curve a little bit, lost a little bit of time to Matt Wright doing that. Not really something that we have to go to replay for, but man, all these drivers making mistakes, and look at Angelica Pawlowski right behind Gary Teal, less than a second I think between the two now.
Oof, this is bad news for Teal, and what a shame, because Teal has been so phenomenal all race long, withstanding the pressure, and it just, I guess it came to a head. So as Angelica now has Gary within sight, I think that that number 8 is going to be in a hurry to try and get this pass done.
Last time around, Angelica once again under 2-minute lap time. Very quick. Those are lap times that you could probably do as a podium driver as well. Real big shame that she didn't manage to set a qualifying lap time, because imagine what could have been then. But for now she has to settle for a position just outside the top 5.
2 laps to go, and Dudignon is actually coming close to getting the white flag now. He heads up the back stretch towards 130R, and with that, it'll only be one more braking zone before the pigmentless flag comes out. It is almost 10 seconds between the Frenchman and the Brits. We wondered if Claridge would be able to turn the tides with it being a twistier track. The answer looks like a firm no for now. Poor Mick has been dominated today and really shown the way. Ooh, and Pawlowski looks set to be able to make a move very, very soon. It is down to 0.3 of a second. They break on their way into 130R. A little bit of a better exit for Teal is going to keep him safe on his way into Casio.
Yeah, but the favorite corner of Pawlowski all the race has been turn 1. He gets a good run here through the Casio triangle. Again, different racing lines. To the exit here, the final corner of the track. It seems like Gary Teal's just a little bit smooth. He can go earlier on the gas. I think this is too big of a gap, Joe, for Angelica to draft towards him and try and move in turn 1. Under braking, she wins quite a bit of distance though. Look at that. That's almost half the distance. Once again in turn 2, she closes the gap even more. She's really putting the pressure on Gary Teal now.
Absolutely, as we watch Teal weave his way through the S's. No way by for Pawlowski. Going to get just a few chances to try and get it done, and you can see Angelica taking as much curb as possible, really pushing the limits of the track to try and do what they can to make this overtake happen as we ride on the nose of the number 8 car, braking down into the first Degner, down into the second now. Could we see a pass attempt? Maybe into the hairpin. Very close is the number 8 car. Not sure if it's going to be close enough. Ooh, even a defensive move now from Gary Teal. He knows what's up.
Yeah, Angelica trying a different line, tries to swing it around the outside, but she doesn't get the exit that she wanted, because look here, it's Gary Teal that's slightly going away as they go to spoon curve.
and we've got to go to the leader because Michel Dudignon is coming out of the final corner. The Frenchman goes 4 for 4 today here in Suzuka as Mick Claridge is going to follow home in his second place of the season.
Coming out of spoon curve, Angelica Pawlowski once again very close to Gary Thiel. The last opportunity that she probably have is going into the Casio triangle, but she needs a very good run here through the 130i. Single foul, she needs to take all the risk. Oh, Gary Thiel starts to slide. Angelica has to brake a little bit to avoid him. Loses a little bit of distance because of that. He cannot put it side by side here in the Casio triangle on the exit. Gary Thiel is very smooth over the apexes, and with that little mistake in 130i, it didn't bite him in the end because Gary Thiel comes across the line in P7 and Angelica has to set off a P8.
Nicely done by both drivers. They both pushed hard, came out with the top 10 in the end, although I'm sure both of them are ruining their errors today. The rest of the field comes across. Morton gets a top 10. Billy Bob Wright recovers as well to 10th. David Rossi is finishing along with Jean-Francois Boscas. Ang, Gutierrez, and Good going to be the last on the lead lap, it looks like. So with that, we are going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. But stick around because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Suzuka, where we just watched round 4 of the Grand Prix Legends Series. Michel Dudignon takes his 4th win out of 4 rounds. Boy, after losing out last season, you don't want to make the Frenchman angry, that is for sure. Mick Claridge takes his second place of the season, and then Dave Price, if I'm not mistaken, his third place of the season, I believe, as well. I have to double check my stats on that. Price having a very good run, very consistent. Marco Kika, have to commend him, coming from 5th on the grid to 4th here at the end of the race. Daniel Sadro as well with a nice top 5. Matt Wright tried to challenge him, but just couldn't do it. Finishes 6th place, and Gary Thiel could have had that 5th that Sadro wound up with, but a mistake at the very end of the race meant that he settles for 7th, holding off the likes of Angelica Pawlowski, climbing through the field without a qualifying lap to take 8th. Richard Morin finishes in 9th in the top 10, rounded out by Billy Bob Wright, who started from pit lane.
David Rossi couldn't capitalize on a good qualifying. He falls down 5 spots to finish P11 in the end. Jean-François Boscus also drops down 1 position. He comes home in P12. Andrew Eng finishes the race in P13, just in front of Francisco Javier Gutierrez. Don Good is the last driver on the lead lap, and he finishes one position in front of Daniel Blackman in P16. And then Robert Reynolds is the last car seeing the checkered flag with 2 retirements here at Suzuka, Hideki Koivisto and Alex Cameron being classified in P19.
We've got one of our podium finishers ready to talk to us, Dave Price, here to join us in the booth. And Dave, it looked pretty good from your end, holding off Marco Kika, especially withstanding the pressure of the first half. He was right on top of you for a long time.
Yeah, hi Joe. Yeah, Marco had really good pace today. And I made a really bad decision. I did my usual thing of changing my setup just before the race, and I chose the wrong tyre pressure, and I was probably 3 or 4 tenths off where I should have been. So that was a bit frustrating, and I was finding that so as the race went on, there was half the track would be in sunshine and half would be under cloud, and the track temperatures are totally different. So I was okay around one half of the circuit and terrible around the other. But so a little bit frustrating, but I'll take a podium.
Well, you did well to hold on to it. Now, this was such a different track from the first 3 that we saw. The others were all just basically long straights punctuated by a few curves here and there. Do you like this change of pace, or do you prefer those tracks that are just punch it and stay within the draft?
As I said last week, I like all the tracks, but when you come to places like Suzuka, it's really super technical, and it's it's a real challenge. Maybe it's not so great for lots and lots of overtaking from the broadcast point of view, but it's it's a real challenge for the drivers. And if you're more or less the same pace as the guy in front or the guy in behind, it's very, very difficult for anyone to make a move. But it is very easy to make a mistake and let someone through. So I really enjoy driving here, and as I say, I pretty much enjoy it every week, to be honest.
Now, up at the front, it seems like Dudagnon is starting to run away with things, and it's still very early, so things could yet change. But what are your thoughts on the incredible jump we've seen in terms of the way that the Frenchman has been doing it? It seems like he's found something else compared to you guys, because even you were taking some wins recently before this season.
Yeah, it's bloody annoying. He needs to slow down. That's my opinion. Yeah, he's just incredibly quick, and we're in practice in the session just before, and he did I can't remember what the track time was, but he did a 58.1 or something, and I typed in the chat, 58.1, I give up, because it was about 3 tenths faster than my optimal, and yeah, he's just an incredible driver. I mean, he's one of the top drivers in the whole of iRacing, in my opinion. So all you can do each week is keep trying, but he's super quick, and even Mick can hang on to him today. He's pretty quick around here, but yeah, he's a fantastic driver. It's great to have him in the series, to be honest. It's we're very lucky to have him.
Well, I have to agree. Let's hope that someone is able to give him a challenge to give us some excitement up front, though. That was Dave Price. Thanks for talking to us, and congratulations on a podium. Up next, we've got Johan talking to second place. Looks like we're going backwards to forwards here a little bit. Talking to our next best driver here today at Suzuka.
Mick Claridge, welcome to the booth. Good to speak to you again. Best wishes for the new year. What a race this was. You seemed at the beginning of the race that you could follow Michel Dudagnon quite okay, but in the end, you just seemed to drop off a little bit. He was just too quick for you today?
Happy New Year, guys, everyone. That was quite funny. Yesterday, or this morning, I can't remember now, Michel put in a lap time 57.5. And all the weather sessions are around the same, so that was just unbelievably fast. And so I just thought, there's no way I'm going to keep up with him today. So I dropped a 35 power ramp in the car, and I just thought I'll try and get him on lap 1 up the S's, and then I'll just block him. And that was the plan. We had meetings last night, family and friends and everything. And yeah, that's what we thought. Let's don't worry about it. Let's just try something a bit weird and try and see if we can just get in front of him on the first lap. So that was the plan. So the car was really quick for the first sort of half a lap, and then it was pretty much undrivable after that. So I just thought, okay, I'll just settle for second and see if I can keep in front of Dave. So that was the plan from then on, when I just saw him disappearing into the distance.
It must be frustrating when that happens because this, of course, is a very difficult track to make that overtake stick in the end. Next week we go to Barber. Do you want to try something like that there as well? Just make sure that you get that P1 position and just block him there. It must be a little bit difficult to overtake there as well.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about overtaking there. I don't really know. I think we've only been there once. No. Do you know what? Apart from Watkins Glen at the start of the season, I really thought that I'd have a really good chance of winning Watkins Glen. But then I made a mistake in the chicane and that blew out the window. But everywhere else up until now, I was actually planning that I would be, lucky to be, up there, without making mistakes and lucky enough to get seconds. I'm not fast at. There's something about me. It's a weird thing about my driving style, whatever, or lack of talent on big tracks. I'm just not very good on big tracks. With Silverstone and Interlagos being an exception, but places like Spa and here Suzuka, I'm an absolute nightmare. You wouldn't want to drive around in a road car with me around these places. But the slow tracks coming up, like the Barber, Lime Rock, Philippe Island, stuff like that. I'm pretty good. So. That's where I need to win races, so that's the plan.
Very good. Well, we'll keep an eye on that next week when we visit Barber. Congratulations, at least, with scoring P2 out here in Suzuka, Mick.
Yeah, cheers, Johan. See you again.
That was Mick Claridge coming home in P2 out here today. Now, in the meantime, Joe, you've caught up with our P5 finisher, Daniel Cedro.
Absolutely. And I think Daniel has been spending some time out with Buddhist monks here in the East because, boy, patience is a virtue and it paid off. Eventually, you got past Gary Teal just from his own mistake.
Yeah, it was very intense. The whole race, I was within a second behind Gary and within a second ahead of Matt. And he was so good in some areas, and I was a little bit better in some. And then all of a sudden, he just put a wheel off, and he spun, and I had to check up a little bit. And when my heart returned to normal, I was in P5.
Now, how about Angelica Pawlowski? Did you guys see the number 8 coming? Were you aware at the pace that they had?
I saw him in the relative box, so I knew he was coming. I know he's incredibly fast. He just didn't get a qualifying time in. I also knew Billy Bob Wright would be coming through the field, but the race was just too short for them to give me at least any trouble.
So we talked to Mick a little bit about going to Barber in a week's time. Going to be a little bit similar to this in the fact that it's very technical, requires a lot of driver prowess. How do you think you'll fare there? Because it seems like you've picked up the pace.
Well, I don't know. I've never turned a lap at Barber in this car. I've done it in a different car. And so I've picked up a few ideas of how to run. I kind of do agree. It sounds like it will be fairly similar to this. So hopefully, hopefully I can make a decent play at it. Otherwise, I'll just make a fool of myself on the broadcast.
Well, I guess that's a good attitude to have. Just got to make it happen. So again, congratulations on a top 5. I'd say you drove an excellent race and look forward to seeing more of you here in the booth.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys, for doing the broadcast.
Was Daniel Cedro, 5th place here today at Suzuka, but it's going to have us close up because we got to get ready for another Formula One broadcast in a few moments. But a big thank you goes out to the Lotus 489 community for bringing us back for another season of broadcasting, as well to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. If you enjoy this, once again, make sure and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss a moment here on IESN. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can check us out on social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our GSRC YouTube page. Hit that big red subscribe button there as well so that you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. Currently, right now, here on IESN, I believe we also have the Porsche Pro qualifying series happening right now. A little bit, we will have the batteries not included series with the Williams FW31. That'll be at 10 a.m. Eastern. The next race on for the Lotus 49 series, though, is going to be Barber, as we mentioned. That'll be Saturday, January 12th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.